Welcome to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. This is the second episode of the day. This has been one of the most interesting, heartbreaking, curious days in Phillies baseball. On the previous episode, obviously, I broke down Bo Bichette leading the Phillies astray, playing them for a fool, and signing with the New York Mets. And we just got a report that JT has signed with the Philadelphia Phillies for 3 years, $45 million. The contract can get up to $60 million. I believe those are player-based incentives, probably if he reaches like hits at bats, something like that. I don't know the exact thing, but it can get up to $60 million. So in my original episode that I posted today about Bo Bichette going to the Phillies. Wow. I still think that he's going to be a Philly. Like I'm not in a good space, like reality. Like I don't believe today just happened. But he signed with the Mets, and I stated that this clearly means JT's coming back to the Phillies. I am happy that it got done today because I thought JT had all the leverage, and eventually he did because, you know, you have to go get JT after you miss out on Bo. But I had a thought that I was gonna like extend a couple weeks, like JT was gonna try to get every single dollar out of the Philadelphia Phillies. But in all reality, man, if you would have told me at the start of the offseason that JT was coming back for 3 years, 45 million, I wouldn't have been that upset because it is a bit of an overpay, but that's kind of what you have to do in free agency. And with all the JT stuff, it was really like predicated on Bo Bichette coming to the Phillies. Like it wasn't a knock on JT. Like it's not like I didn't want JT back. In a perfect world, I would have wanted JT and Bo, right? Because the catching position in Major League Baseball is terrible. So if you can lock up, even though he's 35 years old, even if he doesn't hit, he's a great defensive catcher. He works great with the pitchers. So it's just it's just the move that happened before to where yes, bringing back JT is a good move, and you kind of had to do it. It's just what could have been the more ceiling move. But I really do believe that the Phillies were um, prioritizing Bo Bichette. Clearly, I mean, like they offered him 7 years, $200 million. But and I heard this on WIP, Joe Giglio. I like Joe. He was saying the Phillies really have to change their whole organizational structure in the sense of how they work these deals. The market's changing. Like players are opting more for the shorter term, high AAV opt outs. Kyle Tucker just did that last night. And I kind of understand why the Phillies want to go long term because it spreads out the AAV, but you really have to adjust to the player and what they want. Because here's the thing: if you set your sights on a player, they don't bend to you. You bend to them. Pause. Um, and the no opt outs thing is unreal. Like, even if that's your philosophy, why on earth would Preston Mattingly go out and say that on a podcast? Like, keep that in house. Now everyone knows that you don't offer opt outs, and not offering opt outs is genuinely insane. Like, we're in the year 2026. Grow up. Grow up, Phillies organization. Grow up. Um, But JT's back, cool. Um, Now I'm kind of gonna go in what the Phillies could do. I'm gonna do a whole episode on the whole Bichette or Phillies offseason, re-signing JT. What's next? I'm probably gonna do all that, but I wanted to give you guys a live reaction, like a live episode to the JT signing because it is a big deal. But if JT is the last move from the offseason, we're not competing with the Dodgers. We'll get in the playoffs, and I always have the notion that when you go to October, anything could happen. And I still believe that because baseball is baseball, right? We all know anyone can beat anyone on any given day. It just makes it that much harder that the Dodgers got Kyle Tucker. Like, if the Dodgers didn't get Tucker and their team was the same as last year, they're still a juggernaut, but the Phillies could compete with them because the NLDS was very close. We lost game one by 2 runs. We lost game two by one. We crushed them in game three, and then we lost by 1 run in game four. A couple plays here or there, a couple managerial decisions that go another way, we could be looking at a parade down Broad Street. But then when the Dodgers added Kyle Tucker, that put a whole wrench in things to where you're essentially bringing back the same team, running it back. Now, you're not really because Justin Crawford's going to be in the everyday lineup. Andrew Painter's going to be in the rotation. Adam Miller most likely will be up at some point in the 2026 season. But so you're not running it back, but you're also putting a lot of faith in these young guys. and they are the top prospects. Eventually, our minor league system players, they have to produce because that's what the Dodgers do. That's what all the good teams, they have a mix of superstars and homegrown players. Now, you had Bomer, you had Stott, Nola. They're good players, but they're not superstars. We need one of these homegrown kids, Painter, Crawford, or Miller, to be a superstar. But just going on some of the moves. So Eugenio Suarez is out there. Okay. I don't see them doing that because then he's playing third base and he's not a good third baseman defensively. He's there for his bat, and then that kind of blocks Aiden Miller. So because Miller's timeline is this year towards the middle, towards the back end. So if you give him a 2-year deal, where's Miller going to play? You know what I mean? Like if Bomer was the third baseman, which he is right now currently, he's on the last year of his deal. Miller's coming up this year. So it kind of fits the timeline. So I don't see Eugenio Suarez coming in. Like a lot of people are commenting on the TikTok. Cody Bellinger, maybe. I don't know because I don't think Cody Bellinger really fits. Of course, you can put him in left and trade Marsh, but then you run into the same problem of everyone knows you're trading Marsh if you sign Cody Bellinger. So what really is the return you're going to get on Brandon Marsh? And obviously, Cody Bellinger is a much better player than Brandon Marsh, but he's going to cost $30 million a year minimum. Do you really want to spend that for an outfielder? So I don't know about Cody Bellinger. Like if they sign him, I'm going to be happy, right? I just don't really see the fit. I think he goes back to the Yankees or even signs with the Mets. And then the only other big free agent out there is starting pitcher Framber Valdez. And if you guys have watched the episodes, I don't like Framber Valdez. Not based on his stuff because he's a great pitcher, but his mental makeup, dude. We all saw the video of him intentionally throwing at his catcher. And I don't think, like, obviously, there's been a lot of buzz about that, but I don't think people realize how serious and how insane of a move that was. 90, like, it was a 96 mile per hour fastball at him. Granted, he has gear right, but he threw it at him. That's criminal. That is assault. So I just don't want that kind of guy in the clubhouse. But then you're kind of in a tough situation because he's a good pitcher. And how do you beat good hitting? You have great pitching. And we just lost Ranger to where if Zach Wheeler returns back to form, which is up in the question because, thoracic outlet syndrome, you could either go one way or the other. You can go back to who you are, or you can be a complete shell of yourself. So we're going to have to see how that goes. But let's just go into the notion that Zach Wheeler does return to form. Wheeler, Sanchez, dominant. Jesus Luzardo, I think, is a damn good number 2 and a phenomenal number 3. And then Andrew Penner's your 4, right? So we don't know what Andrew Penner's going to be. I think he's going to be a great pitcher, but you never know after Tommy John. Because if Painter returns to the form he was before the surgery, then you got an elite 4 to where you can compete against anybody. But if you add Framber, then you got a really good 4 no matter what. Like those guys are locked in. And then whatever Painter gives you is kind of extra. Now, because the struggle with this is the Phillies put all their chips in when they re-signed Kyle Schwarber. They are going in trying to extend this run, this core of Turner, Harper, Wheeler, Nola. And you kind of have to do that, right? Because they're here forever. You're never going to tear it down. I've seen some comments just tear it down. One, no. And then 2, that's just physically impossible. You can't just get rid of the contracts. All these guys have no trade clauses. It's not like the NBA or NFL to where you can just ship them out and just start all over again. You can't do that in baseball because players have 10-5 rights. And then when Turner signed, he got a no trade clause regardless. So you can't really blow it up. So you have to continue to put all your chips in. But besides Framber, who would you do that on the free agent market? There's no one out there anymore. We are in the middle of January. So maybe, and talk about the trade market, Dave Dombrowski isn't who he once was. Because the thing about Dave Dombrowski is, yes, he's made some great trades in other organizations, but if you kind of read the reports, he would bamboozle the other president of baseball operations. Like he would play them for a puppet, similar to how Bo Bichette played us. And now GMs are smarter. They're not going to fall for that. Like the report that they offered the Astros Nick Castellanos and Alec Bohm for Kyle Tucker. Now, Dombrowski came out and said that was false, but if that was true, that just shows how far Dave Dombrowski has fallen in his game to where I don't have any confidence in the world that he would make a significant trade like that or have the ability to make a creative trade. And the only realistic trade candidate that would truly get us to compete with the Dodgers, similar to where I would believe that we were if we signed Bo Bichette, would be Tarek Skubal. Now, Tarek Skubal, you would have to give up Ada Miller, you'd have to give up Andrew Painter, and you'd have to give up someone else, maybe like a Ruin Escobar. You would have to gut the farm, and then you have to bank on that he's resigning because Tarek Skubal is going to get paid. I believe he's going to be the first $500 million pitcher. If we're willing to give him that, then you make the trade. But if John Middleton is not willing to shell out that money, then you don't make the trade because you're not going to gut your farm for 1 year. But it just comes back to the notion that all the chips are in with the Philadelphia Phillies for the 2026 season. We're going to try to win a World Series. And it just sucks to we don't have Bo, because I truly believe Bo in that lineup would have given us a damn good chance to compete with the Dodgers, even with Kyle Tucker. It was going to be an uphill battle regardless. The Dodgers with Tucker and the Phillies with Bo, the Dodgers are still a much better team, but it closes the gap to where, like I said, anything can happen in postseason baseball. Oh, excuse me. So, yep, JT's back. We're gonna have to see what they do. I really want them to re-sign Harrison Bader and then trade Morris per Crawford in the left. But even that's not going to move the needle as much as the Bo Bichette signing would have done. So we're just going to have to wait and see. And I'm sure once opening day comes around, I'm going to be in a much better mood because I always want to be that optimistic Phillies fan, because baseball is the best sport in the world, mainly because anything could happen. But this, and this is not hyperbole, this is one of the worst days in Philadelphia Phillies sports history. I truly believe that. And I'm going to do a whole episode on the entire Bo Bichette Philly saga because, of course, there's all these reports of last night they had a deal in place, 7 years, 200. Well, then why wasn't Penn signed a paper, right? And then goes back on the organizational philosophy of no opt-outs, which is utterly ridiculous. So we'll have to wait and see, but that'll do it for this episode. You guys have a good one, and go Phils.